How do you and potentially other Caribbean students or staff navigate your cultural identity within the post-secondary setting?
I feel like I felt like I had a lot more fun on campus because I did my undergrad here at Western, and I enjoyed myself a lot more when I started to meet other students that were like me. Like, I think some of my really good friends, they weren't necessarily Caribbean, but they also shared the Black experience with me, and so there was a sense of community there. But I don't think when I was doing my undergrad here, I don't really think that I felt a lot of connection at all to the Caribbean community on campus. But that was way back, like 2015 to 2017. And I feel like it's a lot different now as a staff member. Now there's the Department of EDI on campus, and then also I feel like I met a lot of Caribbean community on campus through the Black Faculty and Staff Network, and then also just through research projects that, like this one, through research projects, because I work with a lot of researchers. So I feel like I've met a lot more as a staff member versus when I was a student at Western. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so would you say there was a difference with how you engaged with the community in London as a student versus as a staff member?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's also just the era of my life that I'm in. When I was a student, I felt like I was mainly just focused on my classes in school, and I think I hadn't fully developed my personal identity yet. And so I didn't talk about it as much because I didn't have as good of a grasp on it as I do now. And now that I feel like I'm more comfortable in my own identity, that I'm able to seek out others who share that same identity. And I feel like I feel more likely to seek it out because I feel like I can belong there. Yeah, so I don't know if it's a difference though between being a staff member and a student. I think it's also related to just the time and the political climate and things like that we're living in. I feel like during COVID, at 2020, the second round of Black Lives Matter that popped up, a lot more, EDI projects were funded on campus at Western and other universities and colleges. And so I feel like that's probably why it's easier to find that community on campus now too, now that I'm a staff member. So I think that's a huge part of it. Mm-hmm.
Now, do you feel there's a distinction between being a student at Western and being a member of the broader Caribbean community in London?
Yes. I feel like, it's hard to say. I feel like there is a difference though, because Western's community is very different from London's community. I feel like Western's campus is so big and expansive. It's like another little city in itself, and it has its own cultural climate, and it operates we have our own police service on campus, right? It's separate from London in many ways. And so I do feel like there are definitely differences. I think if I was a student now on campus, it would be much easier to cultivate a community in London on Western's campus versus in the city of London outside of my my family, because I feel like the EDI department at Western, it's, creates those pathways for students to be able to find that connection. But I don't know if the City of London does it with such urgency, right? But then, the committees that do that on campus at Western are typically like Caribbean, parts of the Caribbean community, but I don't necessarily know if that's as connected throughout the entire city. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a long-winded answer, but yeah.
Now, this next section is kind of looking at like navigation, kind of like migrating, whether people settle long-term, short-term. Now, do you perceive London as a place that you want to settle long-term, or do you look at it more as a temporary stay?
I think that for me, London has always felt temporary. Even though I was born here and I grew up here, it was always a place that I wanted to leave. I love, it's nice to come back home, but I also love leaving London. So I do think that there is like a very good chance that I find a sense of community, or a stronger sense of community and like Caribbean community outside of London. I think like my sister lives in Toronto, and I feel like I feel a lot more sense of community going to Toronto versus like being in London. So I don't think that London is like a place that I plan to settle down in and stay forever. I think I've always had plans on, whenever the time is right, leaving and going somewhere else. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you feel more of a sense of belonging and community in Toronto versus London. Now, why do you think you feel that way?
I just feel like there are more people like me, just in general, and there are more. There's more. There's different food to try, more people to meet, more events, and I feel like there are also there are so many more events that when there is an event for Caribbean people, it's geared towards Caribbean people. I feel like, sometimes we have these events in London and it still feels like, it's not a space geared towards, or like that's fully geared towards Caribbean people, because it's made for others in the community too. And sometimes it's really nice to just go to a space that is meant for someone like you, especially if you can't come by those spaces very often. Yeah, I think Toronto just has a lot more culture and community, and the events are bigger and there's more of them, so that's a big thing.